ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to Infection Podcast. We cover the very interesting intersection of the video game industry alongside politics. Somehow those two things are together. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. You can check out our website, infectionpodcast.com. Joining me as he does each and every week, a newly crowned champion of his, it's not beer league. This is like an actual hockey league that you're in.
No, this would definitely be beer league.
Oh, it is. Okay, so the winner of the Bud Light 2000.
This is roller hockey. So this is like super casual. I mean, it's not casual how you play it. It's pretty competitive.
Didn't you break your arm doing this? You have to have major surgery because of your hockey playing?
That was because of ice. Somebody slid and somebody went down in front of me and slid through my legs. And so it just put me onto my shoulder and it caused some damage. But roller, I haven't really gotten hurt as much. I've gotten a lot of stitches from ice, and then my shoulder was from ice. Roller, I've gotten hurt when I used to do traveling tournaments with teams.
Gotcha.
It's had where things hurt, but nothing major. So,
well, congratulations.
Way too much information. Yeah, so that was fun. Won by 2 points. So, all right.
Nice.
If you want to find me at Boise Computer on Twitter or at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Getter, Truth Social, and everywhere else. We'll see. I always had to figure out if I need to eventually just try to do something that has my name in it for Twitter instead of doing at Boise Computer.
That's what I did. That's what I can say. Speaking of Twitter, as we come on the air on this Tuesday evening, as you're joining us here live, there is a pretty big announcement today after a couple of weeks of kind of no radio silence from Tucker Carlson, who was the host of the most watched show on cable news for the last about 6.5 years or so. He came out with a video about an hour or so ago announcing that he has partnered up with Elon Musk and is going to be taking his show, which at one point had anywhere in the, was making hundreds of millions of dollars a year, was watched by tens of millions of people a night. He is going to be moving that to Twitter, Brian, in an unusual but not surprising video announcement. And it's pretty amazing when you look at some of the views on Twitter. This is his video from a couple days ago, April the 26th. Brian, this video has almost 24.5 million views. So obviously people are using the platform, and it appears that old Elon Musk, and he even tweeted out today, some guy messaged him, some random account was like, hey, if you play your cards right, you could have like the #1 podcasting platform in like 90 days. And his response back was, yup. And he might have done this here with Tucker.
That's where my mind was going when you were talking, was this whole thing, because this is what he's really aiming for. And the timing of this is perfect, because if you look in the last week or two, Elon has implemented this whole money-making system that you can use Twitter for making money off of videos, for monetizing things. And then also, I think he'll give you an ad revenue split of the ads on particular content. I don't know if that part's been fully implemented yet, but this is something where I think that you could get podcasters if then there was a way to tap into your feed, it could be definitely a place where people go and post their podcast, post live video. If you can get money off of it, it would totally work, especially for live shows, which is what he's aiming for as well. Probably a live show like this, maybe slightly pre-recorded news, things like that. He wants that to be the place where when you want to know what's happening, like you go to Twitter, and that's what Twitter used to be back before they really started locking things down. If you remember when there was all those Occupy Wall Street and all of those things, on Twitter was a place where a lot of people were posting, I think, live video at that time.
Periscope.
I think they're going to be opening up soon. Yeah, Periscope. They were getting right on the ground, and people were seeing what was happening in the middle of all of that.
Yeah.
And I think that really kind of opened up a lot of things on the internet. Monetize it. I think it could be that again, because that's what he's been pushing for. This is the place where you can go find the truth, right? Where it's not hidden from you. It's not changed, because you can't get the truth on YouTube. Well, I mean, for the most part, on a lot of subjects because they made it, you can't talk about those things. But he wants a place where you can have both sides of the opinions.
Well, and that's exactly what it comes down to. It just needs to make the best platform for this stuff to be available. And, I don't know what exactly that looks like. There are some issues with the Twitter interface as it stands right now. But it would be great to have this, at least it would be nice to have another option. Spotify's, they spent, $100 million, as Pro Tip points out. They spent essentially $100 million on Joe Rogan. And that was their investment. Yep. And to some extent, I don't know how successful that's been in terms of their market share. Of course, iOS has their native podcast app that's incredibly popular. Google Play is a native app for podcasting that's popular. Then you've got a dozen or so really popular apps that a lot of other folks are using. You're just like what we talk about with video games, Brian. You're buying exclusivity, and that is what is the important thing. It's what separated consoles in over the last 20 years was exclusivity. It's still what does. If you want to play old Mario or old Zelda, your exclusivity. You're buying a Nintendo Switch or you're emulating it on a PC. You're not buying anything else. And I don't. This isn't any different than that. So that's what we're seeing. There's no details on it. It's just soon is when it'll be coming, but that's what's going on.
Pro tip, don't die in chat. He says, he'll never beat Joe Rogan. Well, Rogan, even lefties like Rogan, not just the far right that likes Tucker. And one thing I think, though, I wouldn't be surprised if Rogan here, when his contract ends, would switch over to something like this, where he can just post video, post live stuff on YouTube, make money back from just people watching the content and not having to do really anything else. Not having to worry about what's going to get flagged on YouTube or what's going to get this, what's going to get that. Because that's the big issue right now is he can't just go and stream on YouTube. He'd be banned constantly or having to deal with flags and not being able to stream. And it would mess with his business quite a bit. But he could go on a place like Twitter, stream, unless he does something incredibly outrageous. He's not going to get banned as long as he's just speaking something realistic. They'll let it go. And so I think that this could be a place where he would go because as long as they can make it to where people actually make money, and that's going to be the test because it's barely started. So who knows if that's really going to happen.
A lot of this is still very much in the honeymoon, rose-colored glasses phase. I mean, I think Elon's an all right guy, I'm sure, but a lot of this stuff is just kind of fly by night, which is great. Because it allows things like this to happen. The question is, and what everybody wants, Brian, is some sort of longevity and security. If you're going to ask me to invest in an ecosystem like Twitter, which, I'm already heavily invested in anyway, but if you're going to ask me to invest in an ecosystem, I need to make sure it's sustainable and it's going to be there. It's the reason why none of these other fringe platforms have ever taken off. The Parlors, the Truth Socials, the Getters. If you're going to ask me to make this time investment, there's got to be something in it for me. Now, the one thing Twitter has going for it is it has hundreds of millions of active users. That's very powerful.
Yep.
Just
seeing his video, I think that was a perfect test for him. So maybe he remember that original video you showed. Possibly that was his test to see. Yeah, 25 million views. Let's see what we can get on a view. Yeah, on a single video, and let's see how much money we'd make. Using this system. Would it be worth our time? Okay, 25 million. I could make something that makes enough to pay everybody. Let's do that.
And that's video views. Look at the engagement. 81.6 million views on Twitter. Almost 250,000 retweets and almost 100,000 replies. That engagement is off the freaking charts. And he's got almost 7 million followers. So that's look at this. Look, followed by Brian Aldridge. Oh geez. So it's not necessarily the most shocking thing in the world. But this video is 2 hours old. He's only got 7 million followers. It's already been seen by almost 17 million people. That's what has always made a platform like Twitter so. The reason I've been on it so long and I've always used it is it's such a fast moving platform, and my day job has me involved in politics, so I'm on Twitter constantly. It's my primary source of information, and I'm putting stuff out there and sharing stuff all over the place. So
pro tip, don't die. He makes a good point. Maybe Alex Jones could find a new home. Now, he's kind of probably halfway joking, but it's true. As long as he doesn't say something, well, I'm sure that he could work that out. But he's been sued. He's got to be filing for bankruptcy. I mean, who knows what's going on with the guy? I haven't been tracking him lately. But he's probably in a place, yeah, he's suspended. He's probably in a place where he could turn around and do this to make money after he's filed for bankruptcy, just go on there as himself and try to maintain making some money while he starts to build up a possible studio post bankruptcy. I mean, This would be the place to go as long as he can not do anything so ridiculous that somebow gets him banned again.
Well, I don't know that I'd put any money.
Don't be threatening anybody. Don't be doxing anybody. You know,
don't be talking about eating your neighbor. Yeah, that stuff doesn't typically go over very well. So it's the information is still kind of rolling out as we're talking about it now. So I'm sure in the next couple of weeks we'll get some more details on it. But I'm excited. I'll tell you what, if this, I would love to be able to put not only this show, Brian, but my terrestrial radio program on Twitter. I post the link to it every day, but it goes external. So that would be it'd be interesting. Maybe they'll partner with somebody to make that happen. So that's what we're tracking as we come on the air here. Brian, PC revenue in terms of the economy is not great. We've got a CNBC article here that's indicating that Advanced Micro Divisions. What's their advanced?
I think so. Division.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly what their acronym stands for, but AMD is revenue has dropped 9%. And they note something that you have been bringing up for months now: huge PC chip sales declines, which we've seen. We've been tracking for months.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, these things usually happen, and they'll come up, on the news here and there. But I've been trying to bring attention to them so people see the pattern is everything is failing when it comes to either the sales. Businesses are shutting down, people are being laid off. The economy is in the tank. One thing I want to encourage people to remember is go vote, and remember this. Week after week, we're going to remind you the economy is bad. I don't care if 1 week before the election that the gas prices dropped 10 cents. Remember how it's been all year. Anyways, that's just my own personal opinion. But AMD, is seeing this. They're losing money. They expected about 5.3 billion in sales in the current quarter. Wall Street estimated about 5.48 billion. So we'll see what they actually do. Their net loss swung to 139 million. So that's not good. But they're not the only ones. You got to look.
No, they're not. This is the market as a whole. This is not
Intel.
Just like, AMD is a disaster, move on.
Intel's preparing for more layoffs due to having a really bad beginning of 2023. Same thing. They're not selling chips. People do not have income to spare at the moment because of everything being just so expensive. It's been just quantifying over time and getting it to where people have to be making an incredible amount of money and overall to feel comfortable right now, I think.
Well, I'll say this.
Yeah, so they're noticing issues too. Yeah.
From a kind of, and I'll say this personally myself. Brian, you and I have been in the GPU market for similarly the last 5 years, and I saw we had there was a GPU on sale this weekend, an R6600 or something like that, AMD card for $200, a gigabyte card. Seemed like actually a really good deal on a card, and the question was, do I want to? I have $200 and I could spend it, and I'm not gonna have to go without. The question is, with everything going on, with potential looming things going on, do I really want to spend $200 or $350 or $500 on a GPU for my computer? And the answer was no. I was like, you know what? We'll see what happens. I'd rather just keep this money. We'll move it over here. We'll keep it over here. We'll spend it on V-Bucks instead. But nevertheless, is this discretionary spending? Is that a good idea, or do we want to keep this money in liquid savings for potential issues coming forward, like, oh, I don't know, a debt ceiling in 2.5 weeks, which could have catastrophic impacts on the economy. So I don't even know if it's much of people not making money. It's they're like, holy crap, I don't want.
Well, the nervousness about the future, and this has been prolonged. Usually there'll be things come and go, and you see that ebb and flow. But I think with this one, it's just felt like it's staying the same or only getting worse. It's that slow build that I think makes people not feel comfortable that, well, I know that I'll get the money. I think it's making people question that.
For the last year, I've been in this position where I'm like, if I really don't need it and it's over like a couple $100, I'm not going to buy it. Like I have a new dishwasher coming Friday. I was like $400 or $500. Like, all right, I need a new dishwasher. We can do that. But it's like anything else. It's like, Jesus, do I really is this necessary? And of course the answer comes down to no. In this video games, music, movies, and television, that's the most discretionary stuff that you have in your budget. In all likelihood, it's the most leisure of activities that you can do besides literally going on vacation. So yeah.
Well, and exactly, video games, Unity is now laying off 600 employees, and it's going to be closing half of its offices worldwide.
Holy moly!
So it lays off 600, and then it's closing half of its offices, and so that's just.
What are they saying?
Perfect example. I mean, they make money by people making money making video games. And so if you let that sink in, if people are not making money selling the video games, making the video games like they used to, that cuts without any control from Unity. There's nothing they can do about it because the people that are making games on their platform aren't able to make as much money. That cuts their amount of money they make. And it comes down to the economy. It's too bad for them. They could be making the best product in the world, but if people aren't buying video games right now, it's going to hurt them. The same thing goes for Epic, though, too. I mean, the exact same thing happens to them, I'm sure. It's affecting them.
Pro Tip is just absolutely slaying it in the chat room. He says, I don't need Dead Island 2 at $70, a game that was supposed to come out, like, Dead Island 2 was supposed to come out, like 2014 or something like that? It's been delayed a decade. Yeah. I need it at $20 so I can wait. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm not spending $70 on it. If I was 15 again, I would have spent $70 on Dead Island 2. But it was a decade ago. And of course you're gonna wait for that. I mean, it's exactly what people are deciding to do. And
well, we started with hardware. It was AMD and Intel. The gaming development, which is directly linked to game sales. And then also Nintendo Switch. So, mobile hardware is affected as well. Nintendo Switch plunged 22% and is expecting even, bigger declines. So people, that discretionary income, you're not buying your kid a Nintendo Switch right now. You're not buying a Nintendo Switch. You're thinking, well, that's old hardware.
What is?
I'll wait for something new to come out, when they come out with the next one. I think people, if they came out with a new Switch, I think you'd get a set of people that bought that.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think that whole set of thinking, they haven't really dropped the price that much. I mean, it's cheaper, but I think I'll just wait until, whatever I have works fine for now. I'm going to wait until the new one comes out.
That's the GPU argument. It works fine right now. Is it as great as it could be? Probably not. I just turned shadows off or whatever, turn particles down or anti-aliasing, just turn that on a little bit. And it's just as good as it's good enough for the use case. And that is exactly, I think that is exactly where most consumers are right now. Right? You've seen the meme like, oh, can we stop at McDonald's? Like, no, we have McDonald's at home, and it's like some crappy frozen hamburger. But I think that's where a lot of people are. They're like, well, this is working. Yes, this 1070 can still play. I will admit, I have been playing some Fortnite. It plays it totally fine. I mean, it'll work. Plays the most recent Call of Duty fine. Now, I'm not getting the 130 FPS that some of the Subdivisions and some of the other guys that I play COD with get, but I'm getting I'm at 60 plus, and yes, that's not taking full use of my 120 hertz refresh rate monitor. I understand, but it's fine. It's suitable.
It's doing the job.
So I'm all right. Like I can get along for right now.
Well, and that's the thing is, that's all that discretionary. One thing too, I don't remember if we talked about this at all during last week, but Vice Media, the whole Vice Media is filing for bankruptcy.
Pour one
So
out.
Vice Media is filing for bankruptcy because I started having news of, their Vice News Tonight is shutting down. Waypoint, which was their gaming thing that they had, was shutting down, and that was all leading up to, and not having them announced yet that Vice Media itself was filing for bankruptcy. Because I started seeing odd things, and I don't remember if we had talked about some of those, but Vice shut down Waypoint, which was their publication for gaming, which
Well,
I'd never heard of before.
I can say that when you have a bogus evaluation, which is what they had back a couple of years ago when some company injected them with hundreds of millions of dollars and said that, oh, they're worth like $5 billion or something. When that is all made up and it's not based on anything, eventually somebody comes to collect their money back. And that is exactly what's happened with Vice. It's amazing to Vice was supposed to be the new thing. It was supposed to flip traditional news and media on its head, and it essentially did that. It turned into everything that everybody hated about traditional media, and now they are out of business. So, toodaloo. We're not missing out on much. Plus, BuzzFeed, we covered the BuzzFeed thing a couple weeks ago. They shut down their news division. A lot of this stuff is just, like we're saying, how we're being a little bit more conservative with our money and cautious. Investors are like, all right, let's go. It's been 15 years that I've been, leading you around like a horse. Like, where's my money, Brian? Where's my money? like it's time to collect.
And I think what really hurt Vice was their change. If you think of what they founded on, one of their founders was Gavin McInnes.
Gavin McInnes, yeah.
And, it was something that had things that were different on it, right? It turned all political. They started throwing everything for one side of the aisle, and the place really lost its edge. It just became a kind of a spokesperson for just nonsense.
I mean,
right?
This is their homepage. This is the same kind of shit I can read at CNN or Fox News or MSNBC or any other site. I mean, there's just nothing on here that's unique. Who cares?
Yeah, and the thing is, they used to have some really interesting shows that only they covered that weren't super political one way or the other. They were just things that caught your interest. And when they started realizing that people were interested in them, and then they started pushing certain political ideals and pushed out everybody that didn't match those ideals,
Gavin,
then you had nothing but an echo chamber, and that stuff's only interesting, I assume, to a subset of people.
It is, yeah. And I think, and you're
really
looking,
shrinking your audience.
You're not only shrinking your audience, but I think you can more broadly expand this conversation, Brian, to the tech industry as a whole, and look at some stuff with, whether it's cryptocurrency or artificial intelligence. You've got a lot of valuations are nonsense. I mean, they always have been, but over the last couple of months and maybe the last couple of years, since COVID, they just seem like they're becoming more and more egregious. It's like, oh, here's this company that's never brought a product to market, that has a bunch of employees that we can't seemingly figure out what the hell they do, and they're worth $600 billion. You're like, what do they make? Well, nothing really. But like, there's a thing. You're like, well, what the hell? Like, how? How can you be? How can you be
Twitter,
worth inherently anything?
Well, look at Twitter. Look at what their valuation was, and then once the curtain was pulled back, look what was happening behind the scenes. They were like on the teetering on bankruptcy when Elon
hundreds of millions of active users a day and teetering on bankruptcy.
And they were within weeks of having to shut down, it seemed like.
Yes.
That's probably why they were pushing so hard to have them buy, because they were going to run out of money. And they were not bringing in anything. Well, other people's money, yes. And then they were spending money like as fast as you can, throw it out the window is how fast they were spending money in the office. But look at their valuation. I mean, it's a horrible business decision. I mean, Elon has taken it on the chin for this. But you know what? He's turned it around. I think he's going to make money. I think it's beginning to make money.
Yeah.
People said, "Oh, it was making a lot of money before." No, that's the whole Emperor Has No Clothes things, where you're supposed to say, "Oh, we say that this thing is doing well, so you believe it's doing well." You know,
it was making a lot of money, but it was also
but it was losing it as faster than it can make it.
Precisely, it was spending faster than it was, and it's been proven now that once he fired 80% of the employees and the website is still up and operational, and does it have a little snafu every once in a while? Do I get a can't refresh feed issue every once in a while? Yeah, maybe a couple times a week, but it's to be expected when you fire 80% of your employees and you still have a service that's running. So, I can make $100 million a year. If I'm spending $150 million, Brian, I ain't making $100 million. I'm losing $50 million. The number doesn't matter. It's about what you're doing with it that's important. And in tech, in gaming, in media, a lot of this stuff is just farcical.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
and that's the thing, is that if they can kind of push an idea, they can make money off of it. Now, there's one company that's bucking the trend. Microsoft, for the Q3 2023 earning results beat both the EPS and revenue expectations. So this is something that I think is showing that this doesn't have to be that way. I think they have spread out their business and done their business in a way to, when people are making that decision of what they're going to keep and what they're not going to not keep, what they've been providing people is on the keep list. Because if you look at whether they're making money off of giving you Microsoft Office and email, or whether they're whatever it is off of that you're subscribing to, or if it's the Game Pass, even, I think even when times are hard, people will, as long as they can, maintain the Game Pass, because it's a consistent price that they can count on, they can budget in, and they'll keep it.
That's true. They've also done one hell of a job with 365. They have got so many companies by the balls that there's just no way that they can cancel 365. Even though it was originally like $8 a seat, and now it's like $14 a seat or something like that. It's some egregious number now. They've got all this is why SaaS, for people that aren't in the industry, software as a service, has been something that companies like Microsoft and Amazon and others, Oracle, have been trying to move to. It's what Windows has done, essentially, is moved to as a service. It's what OS X has done on the Macintosh side, where it is new rolling updates. SaaS, you have no choice. What the hell are you going to do? Well, Brian, times are pretty tough this month, so we're going to shut off your email. So you're going to shut off your email and do what? Continue to operate your business? That's not even physically possible.
Well, and if you literally look at what
Gmail, it's just as expensive.
But the thing is they've got an enterprise even stronger of a hook into them, because if you look at what used to be all of the old Microsoft Exchange servers that were hosting, the logins and everything else and providing all of this, that's how it used to be. That infrastructure doesn't exist in companies anymore. They're purely doing everything in the cloud. They're handling their logins. You don't need a login server that people have to be able to access. But that was the stuff that was always a mess. They made it to where for you to log into your systems and have any kind of a password control like that without having to do VPNs and ridiculousness, you just pay however many dollars per user, which adds up in any enterprise. Bam, you're locked people in. Just to walk away from that would be incredibly difficult and incredibly expensive, and you're still going to be buying things from the company that you're trying to walk away from in the end to do it in the first place.
Yeah,
so it's pretty crazy.
Like we use 365 at the company that I work at, and we're a major company. We've got like 4,000 or 5,000 employees. And we use 365. I mean, we're spending tens of thousands of dollars a month with Microsoft. And
both companies, the company I work for and the company that I'm doing most of my, my time I'm putting into it, that one, they both use Office 365 for everything.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
these are very large. One of my client that I work for is makes billions of dollars a year. I mean, I'm saying it's a big company.
Yeah.
fully Office 365 for every single login for every employee that exists.
And
it's
that
huge.
is, well, so you're comparing and contrasting. You say one company is bucking the trend. Well, the difference with SaaS on a monthly subscription versus a new CPU, a new GPU, a one-off video game like we were talking about with Dead Island is, these you cannot buy these things and continue. You can't cancel your entire ecosystem.
Shut down your company.
Your
whole business comes to a halt, and there's nothing that happens all because of this.
Yeah.
Pro tip, don't die. He's kind of backing up. He says, "I love Game Pass. That $15 a month is factored into my entertainment. Who has time to watch streaming TV? I'm busy playing cool indies." So that's the thing, is that $15 you count in, and you guarantee you have something to do. There will be something that you haven't done before because there's so many things on there that you haven't touched yet, right? Or a game that you could put a lot of hours in. There's tons of those. That's when times get tough. People will spend the money on the thing that they know they can limit. And all of those games, those mobile games where they're trying to get you to sell to purchase all the little things and buy this pack and do all this, the microtransactions, those will be the first ones to go, because those are not their goal is to have you break your limits. And so you're going to be like, all right, I'm cutting that out totally, but you won't cut out the Game Pass. And so I think that Microsoft has really locked itself into that core list of what will my budgeted self, what will be on that list, and that will be on the list. I don't even think about it. I just I'm not even really using it right now, and I still keep it subscribed.
Well, that's the one of the groups that spearheaded this was Netflix. This is the old Netflix approach. People have had Netflix subscriptions now for over a streaming subscription for a decade, and they don't even actively use them. But they're using them, but they're not watching stuff every week or maybe even every month on it. But it's like, well, I'm not going to cancel my subscription. A lot of people do that with Spotify and a lot of these other services too, is, at $10 or $15 a month, is it worth canceling to renew when you want to use the service? No, because it's a headache and a hassle and nobody wants to deal with it. It's a phenomenal business model.
Oh, yeah. And so we'll see. There's been a lot of kind of up in the air with what's happened with the UK blocking the acquisition. I wanted to talk a little bit about that because
what you got?
They've been there's now discussions of Microsoft completing without without FTC approval, because who knows what the issues will be with that. But I think that I would think it would be smart of them to still move forward regardless. There's so much money into it. You might find that it's just worth not selling to the UK. I mean, that would possibly be it. The CMA who made that ruling, Xbox people have been spamming their organization. So, of course, I'm sure anything they post now on Twitter will just have tons of replies having nothing to do with whatever they're posting.
Sure.
But they're just getting, and that's the thing is, if they're open, if they have an ear to the ground, maybe they'll realize that they came out on the wrong side of the decision. But who knows what? I still think that it's going to be appealed. And
wait. Who you're talking about? The EU, the United Kingdom regulators?
Yeah.
No, I doubt it. No, they will
you don't
not.
Think they're going to care?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I'm not an expert in being a Brit, but I don't believe that they'll ever admit that they were wrong. They know they were wrong from day one. I mean, what we had what, like 8 or 9 other major countries that had already gone through the approval process, and they were going to be the ones that died on the hill. They already know that they're wrong. They don't care. They're going to push the business out of the country. They don't care.
Well, what's interesting is the CMA, they said allowing Microsoft to take a strong position in cloud gaming would undermine innovation.
Yes.
And that's my frustration is they're saying they would make a product that's so good that there wouldn't be anybody else who could make something that could compete with it. That's what they're saying. But
which is
the same thing could have been said about Netflix. Netflix had a product and a platform that was so good, there were no streaming services that could compete at the time. Now, they held that for a while, but rather than saying, well, Netflix, you can't be as good. You need to be less good. Can you make it to where just everything doesn't work as good and you have less movies? That's what they're kind of asking. Instead, Netflix gave other people time to really figure it out. And now you have other platforms that do a lot of streaming that compete with Netflix. Netflix isn't the only one anymore. And I think that they need to let this happen. Cloud gaming is still being figured out. Why are you trying to shackle people in the very beginning of it getting started?
I love the idea, especially in the tech industry, of this will be the X, Y, or Z. Replace whatever it is. So this will be the only. This will be forever. Modern technology is such a new industry that you don't even have to go back but 30 or 40 years to see companies that literally don't even exist anymore. And it's like anytime anybody in the tech field, like, oh my, well, this is Twitter's never going away. Facebook's never going away. You know who also said that? Everybody, IBM. I mean, the Big Blue, International Business Systems. They were personal computing and business computing. Yeah. They were the only freaking game in town. And what do they make now? Shitty laptops that are branded as Lenovo? I mean, they don't even do anything anymore. They don't even exist practically. I mean, they have Watson or whatever their big micro computers are now. That's it. This is such a fast-moving industry. MySpace was going to be here forever. All these services are going to exist forever until they don't, because this is everything that we're talking about right now is so fast-paced and so fast-moving. I mean, Brian, you can go back a decade to 2013, and if we could go through the list of services and ideas and concepts and products that were going to be the thing that it just you'd be like, oh yeah, wow, huh, that was funny.
Yeah.
But in 2013, you're like, this is it. Tumblr. Yeah. It is it. It's the entire internet.
Nobody could compete.
Nobody can compete. Nobody can compete.
And that's
with
the thing
IBM.
is, I think with something that's just, they're complaining about innovation for something that's just getting started. Let a company like this, who has the infrastructure, the ability to make something that's just out of this world. That's like saying, oh, well, Tesla shouldn't have made the Tesla, because it was just, how are people going to compete with an electric car? It's hurting Ford, it's hurting GM, it's hurting all these other companies because they can't quite compete with this private citizen who came up with this, whatever. It's like them treating it the same way. They're saying that this is going to be too good and people can't compete. Just let them make the best product they can. Why are you saying, well, we don't want them to have a huge or the technology from some of the companies they'd be getting, and then the IPs from the companies begin, because they just make it too good. That's what they're saying, and that just frustrates me. Make it to where there's something awesome, and then give something that people that are entrepreneurs, that are indie type of trying to figure something out, have them come up with cool things that end up overtaking it, because it always happens. It's going to happen to Google search. And it's starting, I think that we're on the precipice of that happening now, to where I think, because before everybody used Google search. We've talked about that before.
Sure.
We're getting to a point where that's going to change, I think, in the next couple of years, to where they won't be the search anymore because of AI search and things that will just probably blow them out of the water, unless they can maintain it. But nothing is forever. So quit treating it like it.
Well, and that's exactly it. Now, there is some legitimacy to companies, like, for example, will Google just one day disappear? No. But eventually, all of their little products, search, YouTube, I say little, these are some of the largest, these are the two largest websites in the world. But eventually, these bigger services, they lose their shine, they lose their muster, people move on, they find something else, a better alternative is available. And once you lose a couple of those, which I'll use IBM as an example again, once there was more options in personal computing, once mainframes did not need to be purchased by every single business to operate, you started taking all these massive pillars and you start chopping them down slowly. It doesn't happen overnight, but it eventually happens. I mean, look at companies like Compaq and Gateway. I mean, Compaq was making like billions of dollars a year in the early 2000s, and I don't know who Acer owns them now or something like that, or HP like owns them now. They don't even make products anymore. That was 20 years ago.
HP Compaq.
Yeah,
I think
there you go.
HP did take them over.
But 20 years ago, Brian, they were making billions of dollars a year. They don't exist anymore.
Yep. Well,
I mean, that just doesn't.
More recent. Look at Apple. I mean, if you look at Apple and what people thought about their phones, Android just could not compete, and there was no competition. Now, I still think it's kind of stuck in definitely a binary system.
Two-party system.
It's either iPhone or it's Android. I wish that it wasn't like that. I wish it was a more open platform where you could make something that was compatible.
We need a third party, damn it.
we need a third party operating system. But but people didn't think that Apple could be competed with. There was just no way that anything. And if you look now, a lot of the younger people are going to Android. It doesn't have that. I just remember when I was younger, people looked at the laptops, the iMacs or whatever they were. They'd look at those and just there was a certain stigma about them, and it was the thing to have. It was like a status symbol. People don't think that anymore. It's just that's gone away, and now they're just another product, and people are making products that actually compete and do just as well in a lot of areas. So, they're either going to have to come down in price to keep competing, or cut their features, and then come down in price. But they're not. Nothing is forever, right? You could look at that, and if you do short-term thinking, you said, well, let's limit the iPhone, let's make it so it can't do as well. That would have done nothing but stifle the things that we're getting now out of the competition.
Precisely.
In the long run.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Most things are not forever. In certain industries, you can say like, oh, well, cars, for example, right? There's some legitimacy to that, right? Now, you did just have Tesla that popped up in recent years. So there is inroads, but especially in technology, and especially something like video game streaming, which is literally software as a service. The idea that one company is going to rule the world forever is just stupid. I mean, there's just no this, and that's why to go back to your initial question you asked me 30 minutes ago. Do you think the CMA will change their mind? No, because they're obviously not. Obviously, nobody there's got everybody there's got their head too far stuck up their ass to comprehend the modern industry, the modern industries and facets of the tech industry. So now. They're obviously too incompetent to put two and two together.
Yeah, and let's see what happens, because I know they've got the FTC approval still looming, right? That hasn't happened yet, or hasn't.
It hasn't happened yet. It hasn't even really document discovery is still going. I don't even know that there's an initial hearing set before July or August.
One thing they've been doing is they've ordered Nintendo to come in and testify before the FTC regarding their, I think, the 10-year Call of Duty deal that they made with Microsoft. So they're going to be talking about that.
Who is that? Nintendo, you said?
Also, yeah, Nintendo's going to have to come in and testify. And they're looking at Google Stadia, and that's one thing that they're trying to use, I think, against Activision. Microsoft Activision, because of Google Stadia's failure. One of those saying, hey, look how hard it is to compete. You took as you said, one of the biggest companies in the world, and you're saying that, it's so hard to compete. They had the money. They just didn't do it well. Why are you going to punish the whole industry because Google didn't do it well? They just made poor choices, and they did a bad, just the way they did the whole thing was bad.
If you're,
why are you going to punish everyone else for it?
If you're benchmarking corporate decisions, Brian, my immediate go-to is not Google in terms of their decision-making ability and various things. Google is not my first choice. They have a very, very shady track record of handling things properly, including Stadia.
Yeah, and so and the thing is, this article kind of sums it up perfectly. Microsoft will work with others, so what's the problem? If you look at how Google Stadia did it, they tried to lock you into just ridiculousness, make you buy all these games and do all these different things, and it was just a mess. And Microsoft's not shown anything like that as far as how they behave. So once again, why are you punishing Microsoft because other people or other companies did it wrong? And I just have seen the track record of Microsoft doing things, making things better, improving things, giving you more than what you expected for your dollar. And then you look at what Google has done is usually they shut things off. They limit access. I mean, Google Apps, you had your free account, then all of a sudden it was no longer free, forever free account that disappears. And they shut down this, they shut down that. Microsoft hasn't, of all the things that I have with Microsoft, I don't really remember anything being shut down other than me losing access to Internet Explorer. Right? I think that's one of the only things. They still got DOS prompts. They got everything else. They're not known for shutting things down. So I just think that I just hope that with the FTC, once they get all these things in, kind of lay things out and see them for what they are, that it gets passed through the FTC to where really the only holdout is then the CMA.
Or as I've mentioned, I consider myself the cynic in this conversation, or you just grease the skid so much and you have your big lobbyists do their work beforehand and it's pre-done before the committee even meets. If I'm Microsoft, that's the approach I'm taking. If I'm Microsoft, that's the approach I would have taken. I mean, that's politics. That's how this works.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So hopefully we get some news in the next couple of weeks. If
I think we're
side cases going.
Yeah, I think we're further out on the FTC decision than I think Microsoft wants, because I know that they wanted to have this done by like the middle of the year, and I'm not even sure that the FTC is meeting about this, their initial meeting, until after that date. I think they want to be done by like July 1st. I don't think the FTC meets until August. So we'll see.
So we'll have to keep waiting. Hey,
yes.
A product that we talked about here for weeks. A game that came out and surprised everybody, Hogwarts Legacy. They surpassed $1 billion in retail sales. It was Warner Brothers' largest release of all time. Now, $1 billion in retail sales, largest release for Warner Brothers of all time. It's pretty incredible at that. We kind of follow up a little bit of that. There was a lot of politics surrounding something that really shouldn't have even had any politics surrounding it. For people who don't remember, J.K. Rowling is a feminist, right? I mean, she's a traditional, what you would call a feminist, who believes that women should be treated at least as equally as everyone else. That's what she believes. There's other things I'm sure that you could put onto that, but that's the core. And then that for her would say that, well, women, let's say a trans woman.
They're not trans women. No, they're guys. Don't fall into the trap.
But I'm saying, which is a male, like a biological male.
Yes.
Coming in and competing in a sport, to her, she views that as offensive because a biological male is taking something that was supposed to be for a biological female. And she's being that kind of a core feminist. That's what she believes. And so you had all these trans people attacking her and trying to make people shame people on Twitch for playing this game. $1 billion in retail sales. So just keep that in mind. All these people are saying that the left is winning on everything, right? When it comes to culture. Obviously not gaming all the time.
Does it mention anything about copies sold or just money? I think it's.
I don't see. Yeah, I don't see on here.
$1 billion. I mean, that's gotta put it at least within the top 50 video games of all time that have ever been sold, right? Or at least close to it. I don't know what $1 billion translates to. It's hard to do because of conversions and different, money. You can't just do 50 billion times $60.
It sold over 15 million.
15 million. Okay, that puts
over 15 million copies.
So that puts it right outside the top 50. 23 million is where the original Red Dead Redemption is, and that's the 50th. That's incredibly impressive for what I would call. I mean, obviously Harry Potter is very popular. I mean, everybody has seen it except for me, seemingly. But
did you see the meme I posted for you here?
Yeah,
I think it was.
The stupid Andrew Tate meme. I saw it. I absolutely saw it. But I would say for something that is pretty niche, the fact that it has sold 15 million copies is pretty remarkable.
And the thing is, I think the gay community was definitely not behind the boycott. one of my wife's family or relatives is a lesbian, and she loves Harry Potter, and she was playing it and enjoying it. Right?
Don't
not getting,
hopefully tell her not to go on Twitter.
Well, yeah, the thing is, you can go on Twitter and get a different opinion. But I think one thing that the media and everybody has tried to really prop up is that the trans community is in line with the LGBTQ everything else. But I think there's a big division there. I think there's a lot of the LGBTQ whatevers, maybe not take out the T, that really are in opposition with the trans community because of some of the things that they do, right? And some of the things that they push. And so I do think that that is probably one reason that it wasn't really successful, is because people looked at it and it's just, this is a small subset of people telling you shouldn't do something. Why should I listen to you?
Well, a little bit of a selfless plug, Brian. You were mentioning about J.K. Rowling and trans, all this stuff. I actually interviewed Riley Gaines this morning, the former
I did see that you
swimmer.
were going to do that.
So I mean, I'm not trying to brag, but you could check out the Wilmington's Morning News podcast and check out that interview at nickcraig.com. No, definitely not an ad, not paid for that endorsement. So yeah, that is this is yet another miserable fail at trying to take something that is pretty genuinely unpopular and attempting to convince the entire populace that this is normal. And it doesn't work. It's effective in some things. I mean, some of these boycotts have been effective that have been lobbed by the left. But they're typically, first of all, they're good issues to do it on, and they're typically pretty well run. From day one, the Hogwarts Legacy boycott never made any sense. And one of the big reasons it never made any sense was she wasn't the one making the freaking game. Like, she really wasn't involved in the process a whole hell of a lot at all. Like, she was, I think, some contributor to it, but she wasn't like the lead director and designer of it at all. Yeah. She was just hands off on it. So it didn't even make sense. It's like, hey, I'm gonna boycott this sports team. Well, why? Well, because I don't like this player. Well, he's on another team. So why are you gonna boycott this team? That doesn't make any sense. And now pro tip saying, she got her money for the license. Now she was. I'm sure she makes a.
She made a royalty from it.
I'm sure. But who can, But that doesn't even make any sense either. Because these people say they liked Harry Potter. Like, they're like, oh, well, we still love Harry Potter. We'll still watch the movies and buy all the shit when we go to Disneyland. And it's like, oh, so you're still going to drink the butterbeer when you're going to spend $28 on a butterbeer, you jackass? Like, who do you think is making money on that too?
Well, and I think that this is really kind of a position that's tough for females, that, for instance, feminists and lesbians, who there usually is a lot of crossover there for a lesbian feminist. So I think that that's something where that's a lesbian, if she's a true feminist, will look at the argument of J.K. Rowling and not be able to really say anything negative about it, because I don't know. I think that the whole argument, they came out on bad footing. And it was all, hopefully your average person could see through. I didn't expect these crazy sales to happen. I definitely didn't expect that.
Well, but hold on a second. Let's back up. You weren't expecting crazy sales. It turns out.
Well, not like this.
Yeah. Turns out, Brian, crazy concept. If you make a decent video game, people will buy it and play it. I know this is for all of the folks listening out there. If we could go back in time and scream to Daybreak and the folks at SOE, make a decent game and they will buy it. They will, if you build it, they will come. That's the old saying.
Use a different engine. I would have said that years ago to them.
This game so eloquently, and let's be clear, Brian, the video game industry in the last decade or so has been kind of like a barren wasteland. Unless you are the big dog with your game, and GTA, you can't even talk about anymore. That game came out more than a decade ago, right? That's a whole nother era. Over the last decade, it's been a constant battle of like, oh, how much development do we put in? How early do we release it in early access? What do we do with this? And Warner Brothers is like, hey, screw it. We're going to build a game, build it all the way through, and we're going to release it. And it's going to be a good game. And boom, it sold $1 billion worth, 15 plus million copies.
Yeah.
Success.
Yeah.
It's a clear strategy that works.
And hopefully the people realize making video games realize that if you release what the player wants, and sometimes giving them what they want, they don't realize what they want. That's what Steve Jobs would always say.
Yes.
But if you give them, maybe if they didn't realize what they want yet, but you give them what they want, what they're going to want.
Yes.
People will come and buy your product. That's why so many people bought the iPhones originally or got the iPods, and why so many people went and bought this video game, because it beat their expectations. Come out, beat expectations for the video game, and it's amazing. People buy it. It's when you sit there, and they didn't give a lot of teasers about what was going to be in. That's what made everybody so shocked when they started playing it. But then all these other companies, they sit there and show you these curated videos and say, oh, you're supposed to get you to say, oh, that's going to look so good. And then when you turn around and play it, it doesn't meet expectations. Do the opposite. Show less, and then just blow them away to where they feel like they got something for their money, and they'll keep buying games from you.
I think what I'm hearing you say is don't be CD Projekt Red in Cyberpunk 2077.
Yes. Don't do that. Don't promise a huge, cool world that's based on lore that's so awesome that could just be amazing, and then release something that just felt like an old video game. Super limited. The AI was horrible. I mean, there was no, you know me, I love to explore in a video game. I love Red Dead Redemption for that. I felt no reason to explore playing Cyberpunk. What was I going to go to? There was nothing outside of the play areas. I mean, there was nothing to discover.
Empty subdivisions.
Yeah, there was nothing made outside of where you were going to generally go with any detail that would have shown that some thought was put into it. Kind of sucked.
Yeah. Before we end, unless you've got something you want to talk about AI and Tim Sweeney real quick?
Oh, yeah.
So
exactly. This is interesting because this is something that I think is starting to bubble up, and he's been talking about it.
Well, you were talking a little bit about this, and the big concern is, did we talk about it on this show? It may have been on Computers 2K Now. We were talking about AI. And Tim Sweeney says these companies need to stop taking up everybody's art and running it through their AI machine to learn.
Yeah.
Because you're
using copyrighted material that you don't have licensing to.
Zero.
When you use something to train a model, you need to have a license for you're using it. You're consuming it, right? And so they need to have all these licenses, and all these companies that are just using mass data and training everything don't have any legal license to the things that they're scraping. And so I think it's causing a big issue. The companies that are using this in good ways that I would say are ones that have access to a lot of data. You could look at Microsoft with GitHub. I just subscribed to their code suggestion service. Haven't really got to haven't seen it really do anything yet, but it uses all of the massive amount of examples that are available on GitHub to train itself. So they have a big subset of data to train. Your average person doesn't. I think with Elon Musk, making an AI company is a very smart idea because he has all of Twitter to train his AI. To where he can get a good idea.
That's a terrible idea.
He can train his AI using Twitter to get the general consensus of what the population is thinking, if he can get a spread of type people on this platform.
Wow.
But these other companies that are just doing it for media, and they're consuming pictures and things like that, that's the issue. They are breaking the law to then produce something that can't be copyright. You can't copyright things that come out of AI. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah. So specifically, Tim Sweeney's got somewhat of a vested interest in this because they recently acquired ArtStation, which is a portfolio of art to be used in video games and in just anything, digital. I presume even motion picture stuff as well with everything in ArtStation. And his big concern is, hey, there's one thing to say, oh, I'm doing this for research. There's another thing to feed a bunch of copyrighted material into your AI and then turn around and sell it at $25 a month subscription to somebody, that's not a problem. And he says that they created with ArtStation, they created a no AI tag artists can apply to their ArtStation work to explicitly prohibit their use in AI training. So this would be training for non-commercial uses. That he's got a little bit of a vested interest in there.
Here's the thing that I think that approach I think is wrong. By saying, oh, you have to opt in to not be included on something that we're going to be scanning the internet. How about instead you have us put a tag on it if we want it to be included, and then see how many people want to participate in your mass gathering of information. They're knowing that most people are not going to go and tag their images and do all these changes to where they can scour the internet, much like what Google does. Really, Google does a very similar thing, but they are just they're an index, so they get away with it. They're not consuming and then producing you something claiming it's theirs. Here, they're creating a bunch of things, and there's a lot of, I don't think legal-wise, I don't think they've nailed a lot of this down. I think that there's going to be a lot of laws in the next couple of years. They're going to be putting a lot of limitations, copyright-wise, even if, I don't know, patent-wise, on what AI can do, because it's going to be a big problem. Because I can say to an AI, I think once it gets advanced enough, make me a game that's like this other game, and it will make me a game that's almost identical to this other game. And I could release it as an open source game because it's not copyright. But it does everything that this company that just spent a lot of money, because it's mimicking it. I mean, it's going to create big problems, I think.
Well, I think we'll cross those hurdles when we get there. We are very far away from what you're describing right now. Now there might be,
but I'm saying that's where it's heading. Small versions of that will be happening, where simple things like make me a WordPress plugin that does this, right, and then it'll make a WordPress plugin that does something you didn't pay for. But I think you're going to see it happen more and more in a lot of those areas, to where it'll be tough to make a product that can't be replicated.
I saw a funny meme, and it said it was obviously it was fake, but it was like, it's like a conversation with a web developer. It's like, oh, well, we don't need web developers anymore. I asked, ChatGPT to build me a website. He was like, oh, well, cool, send me a link to it. It was like he responded.
Oh yeah, I saw
C:/home, C drive users,
his documents
and it's like,
folder,
home.htm, and it's like, so it created the web page. But now you have to know what to do with said web page. So it's like,
well, there's going to be plenty of work around it, right? Because there's areas of expertise that you and I know, like for hosting, you name it,
absolutely,
where we make those things work. So if they can come up with ways, I think that we don't stifle innovation. I'm the libertarian. Don't stifle innovation. Let things go as long as they're not hurting someone else. I think you should let this thing go and see what kind of cool innovations come from. I mean, AI is going to be amazing as far as, I think, some of the things that it'll start to discover, whether it's medical. I mean, there's just so many things. So I don't want to stifle AI in any way, but we need to figure out, like, how do we create it to where we're not infringing on other people's rights, which is, copyright and all that. And how are we doing, how make a place where people can submit data that trains AI in an open place. Like, you got to come up with ways to train these that aren't just stepping on everybody's feet.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear your comments on that. If you want, you can leave us a comment on our YouTube videos. You can comment over on Rumble where you can find the shows. You can shoot us a Twitter message as well, @InfectionCast. Or if you want to go really old school, you can send us an email at contact@infectionpodcast.com. Of course, our Discord server as well, and keep up with the conversation there. There's, Brian, not everything's a given. There's not many certainties in life. It is certain that we will continue the conversation around AI. That is not going to be resolving anytime.
We're in the Wild West of it.
Absolutely.
This is just the beginning, and there's going to be a lot of things that happened.
I think to look at, I kind of was talking with a friend about this the other day, like, oh, you missed the Bitcoin, the whole cryptocurrency thing and all of that. Yeah, we're in that same era right now where, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency was 10 years ago, where it was like, oh, look at all this stuff, and we are sitting there right now. Like, it is happening right now. So if
figuring
you're
out where it's going to be useful,
yeah,
when can people use it, make my job easier, make the mundane and repetition things. Use AI to make my mundane and repetitious things easier.
Yes.
I think eventually simple things like with the computer, I can say, hey, can you do this for me? I can say that to the computer and it will do it for me in a way that a human. Well, exactly how that's starting to implement, but all you do is really just talk to your computer, because using your mouse will end up being a lot slower than whatever you're trying to do. Hey, can you get that copy? Can you get a link to this song on YouTube, and can you mail it to or email it to my friend this person? Just say that to your computer, and it'll go do it, right? And it'll use a little bit of logic, not the first link. You could say maybe get one that looks like it's the best quality version or whatever. That kind of conversational AI, I think, is going to make a big difference with code. Me writing code, find bugs for me while I'm writing the code. I love that.
That would be,
pop up something that says, "Hey, if you do this." Hey, thanks UGX for subscribing. This is 63 months. It's insane.
Damn.
But if you can make something that while I'm writing the code, it says, "Hey, you're going to run into this problem if you continue," or they do code completion to where I just start writing a function, and if I'm descriptive enough in how I name the function, it'll suggest the whole rest of the code. That probably will be doing something close. Then maybe I can adjust if that's kind of a best way to do it. I just think there's a lot of cool areas that we're still seeing. AI is totally, we're, as you said, in the beginning phases. We're nowhere near the end. So this is just the beginning of everything we're going to see.
Real quick, UGX Vibe just hit us up with that subscription. Said Elon just released a statement about Tucker Carlson. Let's do this real quick before we get out of here. It says, on this platform, unlike the one-way street of broadcast, so cable news, people are able to interact, critique, and refute whatever is said. And of course, anything misleading will get community notes. I also want to be clear that we have not signed a deal of any kind whatsoever. Tucker is subject to the same rules and rewards of all content creators. Rewards mean subscriptions and advertising revenue shares, you mentioned, Brian, coming soon, which is a function of how many people subscribe and the advertising views associated with this content. I hope that many others, particularly from the left, also choose this to be content creators on this platform as well. So, no, Tucker is putting his flag in the sand on, or his flag in the ground on Twitter, and thinks that it's a platform where he can make money. And obviously, based off of 40 some odd million hits on a video, it's probably not a bad guess.
Yeah, and I think it'll be good if they can get people, because it can't be just where people of one political view go. Hopefully, as he said, other people will realize, I can actually make money. Why do you think so many people flock to Twitch? So many people flock to YouTube. They realize they can make money doing it. I think that if they can show through that you can run a studio and make money if you have content that people are wanting to go watch, then you'll get people that will, kind of eat their pride a little bit and come back from Mastodon and whatever place they went to make them feel good about themselves. Come back and have an open discussion, because for everything I think that Elon wants to do with the platform, it requires it's close to a 50-50% split, because that was what they used to do. Is they used to sell the pipe of Twitter and make a big bound of money because you could predict things that are getting ready to happen pretty accurately using Twitter. So they could go and run these algorithms against it and come out with a very high percentage. You could use it for investing, all kinds of things to figure out what most likely is going to happen. For him, if he wants to use AI for it, you need to have a balanced perspective of both sides, the crazy on one side and the crazy on the other, and everything in between, to get that balanced perspective. And so I think he's banking on people doing that, and he think he's going to just keep making it so good that eventually people will be like, all right, well, it just doesn't make sense to go anywhere else, or I'm losing out because I'm not doing this, and get all those people back and make it be what it used to be back before, they started banning everybody in the old days. Make it that really open platform that everybody's going and discovering things with.
A little bit of FOMO has never hurt anybody. All right, Brian, tell folks where they can find you online.
Yeah, if you want to find me at Boise Computer on Twitter, or at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Getter, Truth Social. If you want to go check out my blog, biteoftech.com. But what you should do is go to our website, infectionpodcast.com, And if you go to our upper right-hand side, you'll see join our server. Just join us on Discord. We have 11 ARC servers running, a Conan Exile server running. I also have a politics role that you can join to where if you want to go and see some of the political news or discuss things with politics, you're more than welcome to do that. You can watch us on YouTube, Rumble, and, well, of course, Twitch. And then if you want to listen to us, at the lower right-hand side, we've got a lot of different platforms and ways that you can do that. So whatever device that you want to listen to, just pick whatever's most convenient. And if you've done that, that means the show's already been recorded and uploaded, and go check out the particular episode show notes where there's a video and audio player built right into there, and then links for all the different things that we discussed throughout the show. So maybe if there's something we talked about but we didn't go into in depth and you want to go check out some of the source material, jump on there, and that's the perfect place to do that. Nice something to go along with the audio version. And of course, you want to support us, infectionpodcast.com/support, or the menu option up top.
I'd like to read a comment from our last YouTube video. It says the title was blocked by the UK, and Stephen Toast responded and said, "What's banned by the UK, mate? I live here, so I will tell you what's banned or not. Not a fucking yank." So appreciate that, Stephen. Appreciate your comment on the video, and hopefully you can read the title and read that blocked and banned aren't the same words. So appreciate the feedback on that. All right, Brian, appreciate you as always, my friend. We'll catch up with you next week. If you want to check out my antics, you can check out the Wilmington's Morning News podcast. Check it out in your favorite podcast app. Maybe coming to Twitter soon, or my website, nickcraig.com. As Brian mentioned, if you missed any portion of the show, you can check out a video version on both Rumble and YouTube. All the links and information to do that is our website, infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.